Boom. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's face it, most PR is garbage, but we're going to talk about how to write press releases that journalists actually use. Let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone, because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. Business Bros, you've written press releases that have gone nowhere, but what if you could craft one that lands headlines and not trash bins? Today's guest has helped thousands get real media coverage, and he's here to break down the winning formula. So please welcome to the show, Mickie Kennedy. And with that, Mickie, we welcome you to episode 1400.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Let's jump into this thing. First things first, can you give me a little background of yourself? How did you get into PR? How long have you been doing it?
So I graduated with a creative writing degree, Master's of Fine Arts, I guess close to 30 years ago. And my game plan was to write poetry and wait tables. And I did that for a summer after graduating full-time. I had always done it part-time before that. And, 60 hours a week on your feet, it's tough. And so I decided I needed to pivot to a safe office job. And I got hired at a telecom research startup in DC. And one of the things they wanted me to do was write press releases because I had a writing background. And I did. And I'd waste a whole day faxing these, and nothing was happening. And I just felt like I'm wasting so much time faxing. I got to figure out how to make press releases work. And so I started doing more story-based press releases. We were publishing a lot of data, and we weren't putting it in context of what's the interesting story behind that. And once I figured that out, we started getting picked up all the time. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Red Herring, which was popular back then, and a lot of telecom trade publications. And I just felt like, this is something that I saw was really driving business for us. And I felt like I wanted to help other small businesses do it. And even more importantly, journalists started to call and say, hey, instead of faxing, could you start emailing us? And so I originally launched e-releases as an email service. We've since changed that as well. Now we rely predominantly on newswire distribution through PR Newswire, which is fortunate because emailing journalists is not very effective today because of media databases. You have a golf club company buy a $10,000 license to a media database, and after they've sent to 2,400 golf reporters, they start convincing themselves we can also send this to banking and finance people, because bankers and Wall Street types like to play golf, but a financial analyst is never going to write about golf clubs. And that overwhelm of off-targeted emails is one of the things that national media really complains about, that their inbox is just chaos.
And things like just in your story right there, the way the distribution happens has changed dramatically. There's so many things that have changed along the way. I think one of the easiest things that people have access to today is distribution, and then their messaging doesn't kind of line up with their ability to send out that message. You have this 3% rule that you talk about. Why do you feel most press releases fail? What separates the winners from the losers? I mean, you kind of mentioned story. You can go a little more into detail.
Sure. So I think the biggest reason that most press releases fail is because people look around and see what their competitors and other people are sending out as a press release. And, 97% of these press releases are not generating what we call earned media. And that's when a journalist writes an original article about you based on the information in that press release. And as a result, people are just spending money and, doing these activities and nothing is happening. And if you look at the press releases that do get picked up, the 3%, there's lots of patterns there and types of press releases you should be emulating. The biggest one is having a story arc. And, we get a lot of product launch press releases, probably one of the most popular ones, new product or service, or a revamped product or service, like a new version. And they're all written from, here's the product or service, here's a list of features, here's a page to learn more or buy it. And from a journalist standpoint, you've written that for all you think it's very greedy. You're thinking about yourself. You want to sell more, and you're not taking into the account that the journalist is a gatekeeper, and he has to decide, is this story important enough to share with my audience? Is it going to entertain or educate them? And in most cases, it doesn't, because there's no story there. If you had a new product or service, one of the first things you can do is, talk about a use case study. Let's say you have a logistics software solution, and you can talk about this company that beta tested it. They're 3 years old. They've lost, most recently 5% last year, and they are poised to be one of the failures. And you can point out a publicly data point that's out there. Every industry has it. And let's say it's 67% of new transportation companies fell in the first 5 years because they don't achieve profitability. If you put that in there, it really anchors the importance of what's at stake. And all of a sudden you have this company, 90-day beta tested it, and now they're projected to have a 5% profit this year. And then you have a quote by them talking about, hey, we never realized that our problem was writing smarter and more educated invoices, and we just thought we just had to win the sale. But now we know at this point it's not worth talking or negotiating anymore, because there's no profit left in it, and we can move on to the sales that make sense. And that is a story that a journalist would say, wow, that's a turnaround for this company. It really shows why this software is valuable and important. And it's a story, and it allows the journalist to write a story arc. And, I think that people get so greedy of just wanting to sell more and push more that they don't realize that they almost have to reverse engineer their announcement to take into the account that it has to entertain and educate these readers or listeners. And I think that's, once you figure that out, you can approach press releases very differently. And as a result, you get a lot more pickup and results from that. And when you do get earned media, like the New York Times writes about you, that is like the biggest implied endorsement. A journalist chose to write about you. That is such credibility. It cuts through, any type of blinders that we have when it comes to advertising. We trust what we read when a journalist has written it. And I'm guilty of reading a story on a blog post or a news article about a Kickstarter campaign, and I'm along for the journey. There's this human interest element that we saw this person, just saying, I didn't want to create a business. I didn't want to create a product. I just wanted, there to be a solution in the marketplace. And I couldn't find it. And now I'm having to do it myself. And I'm like, I'll back this person. I don't need this little widget, but for $45, the American dream, this person can get a bit closer along the way. And that kind of moment happens continually with media.
You hear that often from different types of like VC, venture capitalist people, angel investors, the sharks, for example, in Shark Tank. They often talk about how when they invest in the person and their story and in who they are. The business is almost secondary. Yes, the business has to have, revenue coming in and show a profit, but a lot of businesses have that. They don't all necessarily have that entrepreneurial story behind them. And there are a lot of small businesses out there that don't have a PR team behind them. How do they know what's actually newsworthy to create a story arc around it?
I think I have some free training around it, and anyone's welcome to check it out. It's mostly to try and get my existing customers to do more newsworthy strategic press releases. But it's completely free. It's an hour-long video. And it's at ereleases.com/plan, PLAN. And I think that's a good place for people to start. What I did during the pandemic was look at the 3% of releases that are getting picked up, and I saw the patterns there. The one, the story arc, which I've always known is really important. Secondly, this term newsjacking became popular over a decade ago, and I think it worked for 10 minutes a decade ago, but it doesn't work today. But largely it's just following the pattern. If something's trending in the industry, send out a press release on it. But the problem is everyone's doing this. It's funny, the guy who coined it is the guy who created Help a Reporter Out, and that also has vanished because it's not scalable. That service was, a journalist would say, I'm writing a story about this, and a few people would pitch them. And, it got to the point that they turned it into a paid service. But, some journalists were saying, I got 1,400 responses. There's no way I can field that many pitches, and it's just unwieldy. And the same thing was happening with the newsjacking. And I tell people that if you ever want to approach newsjacking, you've got to be a contrarian. If everybody else out there is saying the same thing, you be the one person that raises your hand and says the exact opposite. You have to make sure the position you take is not going to get you in hot water with your customers or your space in the marketplace. But, if everybody's talking about how great electric cars are, if you're the one person raising their hand and saying, hey, we don't know what's going to happen to these batteries at the end of their life, the environmental toll of getting these minerals out of the earth, not to mention child labor, is really fraught with peril. And cars that catch on fire with lithium batteries sometimes take 8 to 9 fire trucks to put them out. And maybe we should put pause on this until we've solved some of these bigger problems. And I think everybody, it's a way to be rational, but you're saying something different than everybody else. And the important thing is, there are going to be dozens, if not hundreds, of articles on this topic. And if you're competing to be the person who agrees with everybody else, you'll never stand out. You might get one article if you're lucky. But if you're the contrarian, journalists like to be fair and balanced. You stand the likelihood that you could be put in every one of these articles because no one else is out there raising their hand saying, not so fast, here's the con side of it. And so being a contrarian is a really great way in which you can stand out and be that one that gets plugged into every article because no one else is out there doing it and promoting the con side of an issue. Other things that I see work really well is doing an industry survey. You can ask questions today that's specific to your industry, and in 6 months, the types of questions people will want to know the answer to are going to be completely different. So doing a survey is always on topic. And, just be creative, brainstorm, talk to others in your industry. What would you like to know right now? If you were going to a trade show, what's something that you would ask your colleagues? One of the things that I know is there's blind spots in every industry. And generally, we're trying to fill those in when we connect with others in the industry and say, hey, have you noticed that net 90 is turning into like net 6 months and people aren't paying like they used to? And they're like, yeah, that's a sign that maybe money's drying up the industry. And the trade publications and journalists aren't really talking about it yet. And so if you bring something like that to the forefront through a survey and ask questions around it, journalists will go nuts. They love that stuff. And so generally when people follow my path to do a survey, I like SurveyMonkey, 4 questions per page, multi-pages. So, 8 questions or 12 questions, probably no more than 16 questions. You take that link, and you don't need a Rolodex. You don't have to be a huge connector in your industry. There are small and independent trade associations in every industry that are begging for PR. Everyone knows the big trade association. Avoid them. They're not going to cooperate with you, but do a little research. They are out there in every industry. Even mine, there's like 700 PR associations out there in North America that are not PRSA. And some are really tiny and not going to be relevant, but there's like one that for independent PR firms of 50 employees or less. And that one's a couple thousand members. Perfect to reach out to them, say, hey, would you take this link and share it with your members through email and social media. We're looking to get at least 100 responses. And if we are successful in that, I would love to mention you in the press release we'll be issuing over PR Newswire in the coming weeks. And about 2/3 of the time when you approach it like that, they'll say yes. And if not, there's other trade associations you can partner with. And you can just repeat this and replicate it. I have clients that have done this for 7 or 8 years. They do the same version of the survey every year annually, and they get picked up on average 8 to 14 articles from every press release that they do based on the survey. And it really is, as simple as that. And these are the meaningful, strategic things that really make you a thought leader in your industry. By you just doing the survey, you've stepped up and you're going to stand out as someone who's really just an expert in your industry. And all it does is putting yourself out there and doing a little bit of the legwork.
And when people are getting the PR that you're talking about, when they're going through either building the survey or going through trends and headlines, for example, I heard the other day a headline that said In-N-Out is leaving California. I'm in San Diego and I'm like, what? In-N-Out is leaving California? What is that all about? And then you go into the story and it's, their headquarters is moving to Tennessee. But the actual franchises aren't leaving California. There's more to that story. But it got me in there. It got me reading. It got me thinking about what's going to happen there. Maybe even think about, going and grabbing a double at some point. How can people use a press release like that and turn it into actual leads, actual traffic, and actual revenue? I like the survey approach because it's definitely collecting data.
Right.
Any other ways that we can turn that into revenue?
Yes. So one of the first things you can do is I get so much business from other people in my industry, PR firms that have big budgets, and they're like, people looking for something affordable often recommend me, and other people that focus on other aspects like syndication and not really trying to get earned media. They are great leads for me. And so many people view all their competitors as just that, these are the enemies in the marketplace. When you do a survey of other people in your industry, with SurveyMonkey, for example, you get to choose where that last page is. And I always recommend you send it to a page on your website. You have a video, introduce yourself, tell them exactly who you serve in your marketplace, and invite them to join a special email list where you'll share the survey results with them. But now you have people that you can strategize with. And you would be surprised how many of these people can turn into referral networks. They're like, oh, I don't serve this type of customer that you do, so I can start referring to you. And if someone comes in that is a better fit for me, you can refer back to me. This sort of cooperation among competitors is like a game changer for businesses. And that survey is one of the ways to introduce yourself to a lot of people by doing that. And you don't need the Rolodex. You're going to get these free introductions through the trade association. Secondly, when you get earned media, these articles written about you, you will have people in the industry that are now finding out about you that didn't know about you previously. So they're going to become your leads. They're going to sign up for your white papers. They're going to come to your website. They're going to purchase from you. And these people are generally they have this human interest element where they have been, they're reading about you. They see that you're a thought leader, and they don't open a new window and say, can I get this cheaper from someone else? They don't do the price shopping. They want to work with you. So they're not price sensitive, and they tend to be very loyal because they recognize that authority that you have by being written about. And then secondly, you have your own leads. If you put that article in front of them, and share it with them through social media, email newsletters, you're going to convert more. Because again, they're going to read and say, I was only 45% of the way of doing business with them, and you were getting ready to lose. But I got that article. I read about it, and I'm like, these are the guys I should work with. And so your conversion rates are going to go up, usually double digits. churn. Everybody loses customers. It just happens.
Yep.
There's a new person and they feel they have to look at all the vendors and, reevaluate them because, that's the way in which they sort of mark their territory. But, if they see you killing it and you're in a newsletter or, you've gotten picked up in a really key publication, they're going to say, if I go with the wrong guy and pick someone who's not killing it, I stand the likelihood that I'll be seen as not knowing what I'm doing. So they're much more likely to stay with you. And so that's a really, great side effect of this. But, and even more, you're building reputation and, create a page on your website where you record these moments of getting this earned media and getting picked up. Put it on your social media, promote it everywhere because it really does make a huge difference. And people recognize that. And the great thing about the survey is it doesn't matter how non-newsworthy you think you are. Anybody can get earned media by doing the survey. And it's something that you can replicate annually and just, brainstorm really good questions. And you don't have to get any 5 or 6 questions right. A press release generally focuses only on 1 or at most 2 of the questions. I always tell people, build out a page on your website where you put all the questions and responses and so people can see them. But the press release is going to focus on the biggest aha moment, the biggest surprise, what you feel is going to shock the industry most. And that's going to be the main focus of your press release. And you're going to have quotes by you as to why you felt the numbers skewed a particular way. You can either agree and say, yeah, this is showing a strong pattern. Or if it's like AI, you could say, hey, 73% of graphic designers believe that they're going to be without a job in 5 years. And while I think that is not going to happen, I do believe the majority of graphic designers who don't know how to incorporate the use of AI and AI related tools in their designs in the next 5 years will be at a very serious disadvantage. So you sound rational and, the graphic designers seem a little bit alarmist, but it just elevates your authority and makes you just seem even more intelligent and smart and people wanting to be around you and to work with you.
I think Good Morning America does a great show. Almost every Sunday morning they come out and they're doing they talk about little businesses here and there. They take on these press releases and they really dive into that story, making you feel that humanity behind it. And there are a lot of businesses out there that they just may not have the revenue to bring on a PR firm. So I was going to ask you, what's your take on like a DIY PR versus hiring an agency and an expert? And when should a business take that leap?
Right. So I think that DIY is my bread and butter. And I feel like if you have someone helping you with education, like I do, like the free master class and stuff like that, take advantage of it and try it. No one knows your industry better than you do. And I get that a lot of people don't know how to write press releases. And I will say, even though we offer writing, you don't need us to write a release. You can lean on AI a little bit. I don't have a problem with press releases written by AI because the goal is to get earned media where a journalist is writing the article. The press release is just the who, what, when, where, how, and why of the announcement and the building blocks for journalists to turn and transform into something else. However, never ask AI to come up with what the press release should be about. AI is trained on the 97% of press releases that don't work. It does not know what a good press release is. So go to it with the strategies that I teach and say, hey, I want to write a press release where I am a contrarian on this viewpoint. How would you structure such a press release of, say, 600 words? And then it gives you the template, the structure, and then break it down piece by piece. You'll get much better results than, say, come up with a 700-word press release because it gets a little lazy as it writes. And it's good. It reads like a good press release. But if you say, give me 10 headlines for this press release you just gave me the structure for, it will give you 10 and you get to pick and choose what you like and say, hey, I like this third headline. Give me 4 versions of it. And then now give me the opening paragraph for this press release and look at it and say, is the most important thing there? Okay, rewrite that paragraph, but also make sure you incorporate this element, which I feel is really important. And give me 3 versions of that rewrite, and then pick the one you want, and then move paragraph by paragraph. by breaking it down like that, I haven't added any more than like 6 to 10 minutes to the entire process, but you'll end up with a much better press release. Spend a little bit extra time on the quote in a press release. A quote should be powerful. And that means active verbs, that you said something so succinctly that if the journalist was to take it out and just paraphrase it, you would ache for what you had previously read because you know it was so perfect before. And that's the biggest test. You don't have to be a wordsmith. If you're creative and you're a poet, you're probably going to write something a little better and more flourish. But if you just say something very succinct and powerful and with conviction, that will stand out on its own. And that's all you need. So just spend a little bit of time on the headline and that quote, because if a journalist is looking at two stories that are about the same newsworthiness, but one has an amazing quote, they know when they finish the article, that amazing quote is going to help that article really shine and put a spotlight on it. Where if the other one just has a safe quote, they know that they can write the best article, but it's still going to fall a little flat because of that quote. So you will win every time with a better quote.
How do you handle the follow-up after the press release goes out? You mentioned how you work with different associations and how we can get the distribution out. But once it's out there, is like pitching still part of the strategy afterwards, after you've sent it out, and maybe, you get some yeses, some nos? What's the follow-up strategy like?
So I say always work your own Rolodex. And so if you've had people that have written about you in the past or have reached out to you, maybe they were asking some clarifying questions, but they ended up not writing about you, put that person on a Rolodex or your own little list. And when you get a press release, send it out and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I just sent this press release this morning, and I would love to make myself available if you have any questions or you'd like some more comments. Those little connections are valuable. Even though their inbox is probably chaos, they might recognize you from prior interactions and you stand a chance. Local media is the secret sauce for a lot of people. If you think about it, there's probably less than 10 people in your market who could cover you or write about you. So at your local paper, do your research, find out who that is, get their email address. You can ask for it. They aren't celebrities. They should be forthcoming with it, especially if they ask, what do you need my email address for? Or, someone asks why you need it. You just say, I'm a local member of the community. I occasionally have ideas for really good stories, and I want to be able to email them in the future, and they should give it to you if you can't find it online just by doing a search. And, if you have a business magazine or business newspaper there, some people do community weekly papers that are usually free. They've had some success with that, and maybe TV and radio. If there's segments on there that you would be a fit for, like I know that chiropractors, they have Wellness Week and they snap and crack people in the studio. Is there something about your business that would be really attractive from a video standpoint? Like you could do something that would really pop on video, pitch, and just ask who the producer or booker of those particular segments that you like are, and get the email address and pitch them as well. And so, build your own little Rolodex. And if you have over time trade publications, people write about you, email them afterwards and say, hey, I did a press release. You wrote an article about it. I just wanted to say I love that article. I felt like you did such a great job, and just make that introduction. Then over time, as you have these press releases go out, do a pitch and say, hey, I don't know if you remember me. You wrote about me a couple years ago. I just wanted to bring to attention this press release, and again, make myself available if you have any questions or need any clarification. And, it is connections. It is a little bit of networking. And it is harder with email because nationally, they're just so overwhelmed. Locally, less so. So you have better chances there. In the smaller trade publications, you have better chances there. But work it. Work your own pitching. It is something that seems daunting. But like I said, in your local market, there's less than 10 people to stay on top of. And, as you add some trade journals and people within your industry, it just builds a little bit. But it's so easy just to reach out to them and just make an introduction and then follow up as you have press releases and announcements.
Mickie, you've been so generous with the information that you shared with us today. People, I'm sure, can definitely benefit and improve the way they're doing PR. But if people want to find out more about what you do specifically or work with you specifically, how can they do that?
So the website's ereleases.com. We have all of our social media in the lower right, including my direct LinkedIn, which is publicity. And also feel free to email or chat or call. We're open between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. That's Eastern time. And we work with people all different types, including people who've never done PR before. And we're all a la carte. So it's very small and affordable to get started. We have new customer specials, and we have no salespeople. It's all editors. And so we're in it to help you and hopefully get you to see that if you commit to a PR campaign of 6 to 8 releases and you do newsworthy strategic ones focusing on the 3%, you're going to have more successes than failures. And you will definitely see how it can move the needle for you and your business.
And I know, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to ads and you can pay for that traffic to go your way, but there's other ways that you can do that. And press releases allow you to earn some traffic without having to spend the dollars that you put out there, and instead reinvest those dollars in learning how to spread your message the right way. Mickie and his team are doing that. You guys can go to erelease.com, and find out more about how you can start telling the story of your business and get your message out so you start driving traffic organically, building your brand and building your credibility one story at a time. Mickie, thank you very much for being on the program today. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, erelease.com. Erelease.com is the website. Head over there, check out what Mickie and his team of editors are doing to help you and your business get your message out there. That's all we got for you guys today. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home.
Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast, but not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started today.